In the frigid, crushing blackness of the North Atlantic, a Soviet Victor III-class nuclear attack submarine glides silently. Inside the pressure hull, the Mitchman, the warrant officer manning the sonar station, is the eyes and ears of the boat. He is listening to the symphony of the deep, the mournful calls of whales, the distant mechanical thrum of merchant shipping lanes, the crackle of shrimp. His mission is the annihilation of a U.S. carrier battle group. His life and the life of his crew depends on remaining a ghost. Suddenly, a new sound fades in, cutting through the organic background noise. It is not the sharp, aggressive ping of active sonar, which is a momentary threat. This is something else. It is a steady, multitonal, low-frequency howl. It is a mechanical moan that permeates the water column, a relentless, omnipresent drone. To the submariners below, this sound was more than an annoyance. It was a psychological burden. It was the audible manifestation of a flying mainframe computer. An aircraft that could hunt for over 9 hours, relentlessly correlating data from a suite of sensors that could see, hear, and sense their metal hull in ways they could not counter. The S3 Viking was engineered to solve an existential crisis. It hunted the most advanced submarines the Soviet Union ever built, and it did its job so well that its very presence became the ultimate deterrence. During its 35 years of service, the S3 Viking never sank an enemy submarine, because it never had to. Its success was one of total, suffocating deterrence. This is the story of the War Hoover. It is an analysis of its revolutionary technological supremacy, its undisputed operational dominance during the Cold War, and the profound, dangerous strategic void, the Viking Gap, that its 2009 retirement left in its wake. It is a silence now being exploited by a new generation of apex predators from Russia and China, who no longer dread the sound of the Hoover. In the early 1970s, the United States Navy faced a profound strategic imbalance. It had built a fleet of unmatched supercarriers, floating symbols of American power projection. Yet this power was suddenly rendered vulnerable. The carrier battle group had become a blind titan, protected by an anti-submarine warfare screen that was technologically a generation behind the threat it was meant to stop. The Soviet Navy, prioritizing undersea warfare, was launching new submarine classes at a terrifying rate. These were not the diesel-electric boats of the last war. They were nuclear-powered apex predators. The mainstay of this new fleet was the Project 671, or Victor-class nuclear attack submarine. The Victor series, with its teardrop hull, represented a massive leap in Soviet design. The later Victor III variant, introduced in the 1970s, was a true hunter, capable of 32 knots submerged. It was faster than nearly every surface escort ship in the NATO fleet, able to simply outrun its pursuers. But even more terrifying to naval planners was the specialized Project 705, the Alfa-class. The Alpha was less a submarine and more a submerged interceptor, a spaceship built of titanium. Its statistics were astounding, and they kept Western naval architects awake at night. First, unmatched speed. Early intelligence assessments suggested the Alpha's lead-bismuth-cooled fast reactor propelled it to a submerged speed of 41 knots. Second, unmatched depth.
Its strong, lightweight titanium hull allowed it to operate at depths of 400 meters or more, complicating engagement for many NATO anti-submarine weapons. Third, unmatched automation. The Alpha was so highly automated, leveraging an early combat information control system, that it required a crew of just 31 officers. The introduction of the Alpha-class revealed a frightening new Soviet design philosophy. While the West pursued acoustic stealth, the Alpha was deliberately engineered for survivability through sheer performance. Western intelligence noted the Alpha was in fact extremely loud. The Soviets, however, had calculated that its noise was irrelevant. The standard U.S. lightweight torpedo of the era, the Mark 46, had a top speed of 40 knots. The Alpha was designed to win this race. By the time NATO forces detected it, its 41-knot speed and extreme depth capability made it a tactically nightmarish target. While the heavier, more powerful Mark 48 torpedo could kill an Alpha, launching it required a complex firing solution the Alpha was designed to deny. For the carrier's immediate ASW screen, this was a terrifying problem. This created a two-pronged crisis for NATO. In the Alpha, the Soviets had an interceptor that was exceptionally fast and difficult to kill. Simultaneously, in the Victor III and the subsequent revolutionary Akula-class submarines, they were developing a fleet of submarines that were becoming too quiet to find. The U.S. Navy's existing ASW platforms were built to fight neither. The U.S. Navy's carrier-based ASW aircraft was the Grumman S-2 tracker. In the 1950s, the S-2 had been a major innovation, combining the hunter and killer roles into a single airframe. But by the 1970s, against the new nuclear threat, the S-2 was a hopeless antique. Its limitations were crippling. It was a propeller-driven aircraft with twin radial engines. Its top speed was a fraction of what was needed, and its operational range was insufficient to chase a 32-knot Victor SSN that could simply sprint out of the search area. Worse, its sensor suite was entirely analog. It lacked a central computer. The crew had to manually and mentally fuse data from disparate systems, a process that was completely overwhelmed by the speed of a nuclear target. The S-2 was also a logistical nightmare. Its radial engines required avgas, aviation gasoline. This meant the modern nuclear-powered supercarriers, which ran entirely on jet fuel, had to maintain hazardous, separate storage tanks for a WW2-era fuel just for the S-2. The Navy needed a revolution. The VSX program that spawned the Sioux therefore was tasked with a monumental challenge. It had to consolidate the entire ASW mission of a specialized carrier class onto a single, four-man jet-powered airframe that could operate from the Navy's Nimitz-class supercarriers. It had to be a do-it-all platform from the very beginning. The S-3 Viking, which first flew in 1972 and entered the fleet in 1974, was not merely an aircraft. It was the first fully integrated, all-weather, carrier-based ASW system. Designed by Lockheed with Ling Temco Vought and Univac Federal Systems, it was a flying mainframe computer designed to execute the entire find, fix, and finish mission in a single, long-endurance sortie. The S-3's defining feature and the source of its nickname were its engines, two General Electric TF-34 high-bypass turbofans. This engine choice was revolutionary for a carrier aircraft. In an era of low-bypass, fuel-guzzling fighter jets, the TF-34 was chosen for its incredible fuel efficiency, giving the S-3 an unrefueled endurance of over 9 hours and a ferry range of over 2,700 nautical miles. This efficiency, however, came with a unique acoustic byproduct. The high bypass design, which forces a large volume of air around the engine core,
rather than through it, produces a powerful, low-frequency howl rather than the high-frequency scream of a tactical jet. Low-frequency sound can propagate well through water, especially in the surface duct, the upper layer of the ocean. When operating in shallower waters or at periscope depth, a Soviet sonar operator could often hear the Hoover sound as a persistent, relentless wail on his headphones. A ping from an active sonar gives a clear bearing, but then falls silent. The Hoover, by contrast, was always there when the S-3s were on station. While not a weapon that tactically masked the submarine's own sensors, its persistence was a powerful psychological burden. It created profound cognitive fatigue and stress, a constant audible reminder that a hunter was circling, degrading a crew's ability to perform its mission. If the engines were the heart, the UNIVAC ANY-110 general-purpose digital computer was the brain. The S-3A was the first carrier aircraft built from the ground up as an integrated digital system. This computer solved the stovepipe problem of the S-2 tracker. On the old S-2 tracker, the radar operator saw a blip, and the acoustic operator heard a sound. They were separate worlds. The ANYK-110, for the first time, performed true sensor fusion. It ingested digital data from all of the S-3 senses simultaneously. The four-man crew, pilot, co-pilot tactical coordinator, TACO, and sensor operator, were no longer looking at raw data. They were looking at a single, correlated tactical plot. This digital correlation reduced the time to kill from hours of painstaking manual plotting to seconds of computer-aided identification. The S-3A's brain integrated a sensor suite of unparalleled sophistication. First, the ears, acoustics. The S-3 carried 60 Sonobuoys in a pressurized rotary launcher. The signals were fed into the AN-USY-1 Proteus acoustic processor, a high-speed digital signal processor that could filter out the noise of the ocean to find the specific frequency of a Soviet propeller. Second, the eyes, radar. The S-3A was equipped with the Texas Instruments AN-APS-116 Sea Search radar. Its Mode 1 was specifically designed for high-resolution periscope detection, allowing the computer to distinguish the tiny fleeting radar return of a periscope from the clutter of a chaotic ocean surface. Third, the scent, MAD. The AN-ASQ-81 magnetic anomaly detector was a retractable stinger in the tail. This was the finishing sensor. After the computer correlated a contact, the S-3 would fly a low-level pass and the MAD would detect the minute magnetic disturbance caused by the submarine's massive metal hull, confirming the target's exact location. The S-3 was a complete find, fix, and finish platform. Its internal bomb bay could deliver Mark 46 torpedoes or depth charges. But the S-3's sting was also part of a wider, more terrifying strategic doctrine, one that provided an answer to the Alfa-class. The Alpha could outrun a conventional 40-knot torpedo. To solve this, the S-3A, like other key NATO ASW assets, was certified to carry the B-57 nuclear depth charge. This was a tactical nuclear weapon with a selectable yield of 5 to 20 kilotons. A B-57 did not require a direct hit. A nuclear detonation in the vicinity of the Alpha would create an inescapable shockwave, crushing its titanium hull regardless of its speed or depth. This capability was the ultimate strategic backstop. While not a practical tool for a typical Tuesday morning encounter, the knowledge that the S-3 could carry it transformed the platform into a key piece of strategic deterrence. The dread of the Hoover sound was amplified. The hunter above, was part of a system that held a nuclear stick, ready to kill a target that believed itself to be nearly invincible. The theoretical capabilities of the S-3 were proven time and time again in the high-stakes cat-and-mouse game of the Cold War. One classic anecdote from former S-3 sensor operator Dave Barak illustrates the power of sensor fusion. While flying a routine mission at night, Barak's crew acquired a simple blip on their radar. The crew executed a radar-to-FLIR handoff, a key function of the ANYK-110 computer. He said, "The initial thermal image was nothing more than a fuzzy horizontal bar with a fuzzy box on top. But as we flew closer, the thermal signature resolved itself. It was a surfaced Soviet Foxtrot-class diesel-electric submarine, likely charging its batteries." The S-3 crew dropped a single sonobuoy to record the Foxtrot's real-world acoustic signature, cataloging it for the Navy's Global Intelligence Database. This incident highlights the S-3's primary real-world mission, not just to kill, but to build a comprehensive pattern of life on the entire Soviet fleet. Then there was Operation Atrina in 1987. The Soviet Union surged 5 of their most advanced Victor III-class SSNs into the Atlantic, attempting to prove they could approach the U.S. East Coast undetected. The history of this operation is complex. In Russia, it is often mythologized as a triumph of stealth. The Western perspective, however, is different. While the long-range P-3 Orions and SOSUS provided initial detection, the S-3 Vikings served as the carrier battle group's dedicated pouncers. As the Victor IIIs fanned out, the S-3s would launch, take the handoff data, and use their integrated sensors to maintain a clear ASW bubble around the American fleet. They were the crucial enforcers that proved the Soviets could not easily penetrate the carrier's inner defenses. As one U.S. naval historian noted, the claim of total, undetected success by the Soviets has always been heavily debated by Western forces who were confident they had maintained a clear tactical picture.
The S-3's reign was absolute. It had mastered the ocean. But the hunter's greatest challenge would come not from a Soviet submarine, but from the stroke of a pen. The Soviets did not stand still. Their response to the S-3's dominance was the Project 971 Akula-class SSN, introduced in 1985. The Akula was a formidable submarine. Known as a black hole in the water, it was a platform engineered to defeat NATO's entire ASW screen by operating at extreme quiet and diving below the thermal layer to evade Sonobuoys. The U.S. Navy responded with the S-3B upgrade in 1987, adding inverse synthetic aperture radar and the Harpoon anti-ship missile. The Hoover had become the War Hoover, capable of sinking surface ships as well as submarines. And then the Cold War ended. The S-3's primary existential purpose, hunting a massive fleet of Soviet SSNs, evaporated almost overnight. The Navy, facing massive budget cuts, saw ASW as no longer a priority. The S-3 became a victim of its own versatility. Just as the Soviet threat vanished, the U.S. Navy retired its A-6 intruder fleet, leaving a massive gap in carrier-based aerial refueling. The Navy looked at the S-3B, an airframe with incredible endurance, a 2-person flight crew, and a heavy fuel load. It was the perfect Swiss Army knife. The S-3 was repurposed. Its most critical new mission became that of the Principal Organic Tanking Platform, a gas station in the sky for the F-14s and F-18s. This repurposing led directly to the 1999 ASW deconfiguration program. This was not an upgrade. It was a surgical removal of the S3's soul. Navy documents from 1999 state clearly, the Navy removed the acoustic ASW and aerial mining systems from the S3B. The aircraft's acoustic processors, the ANY-US-1 Proteus brain, and the Sonobuoy reference system were deactivated and removed from most of the fleet. The Mad Boom Stinger was often disabled or removed. The dedicated sensor operator station in the back was, in many cases, stripped out. The ultimate submarine hunter, the aircraft that Soviet commanders once dreaded, spent the last decade of its life as a tanker and surface surveillance platform. Its sting and its ears had been effectively hollowed out by its own fleet as a peace dividend.
The S-3 Viking was officially retired from U.S. Navy Fleet Service in January 2009. Its 35 years service was celebrated as a victory of deterrence. But its retirement, made in a different geopolitical era, has created a dangerous and persistent void in the U.S. Navy's defenses. The S-3 was not replaced. Instead, the Navy split its mission between two different and less than ideal platforms. This decision, seen by many analysts as short-sighted, created a critical weakness in the carrier battle group's defenses, a vulnerability now known as the Viking Gap. This gap is quantifiable. While specific figures are debated, naval analysts agree that by eliminating its sole fixed-wing, long-range ASW asset, the carrier strike group's effective ASW operational radius dramatically contracted. The S-3's retirement effectively decimated the carrier's core elements of defense in depth. The mission was handed to the MH-60R Seahawk and the land-based P-8 Poseidon. The MH-60R is a capable defensive picket, but it lacks the range and speed to be an offensive hunter. It is a goalkeeper, not a striker. The P-8 Poseidon is a powerful asset, but it is land-based. It is not organic to the carrier. Relying on it forces the carrier to operate within range of friendly land bases, squandering the carrier's mobility. This created a missing middle layer. The P-8 is the outer layer, the helicopter is the inner layer. The S-3's retirement eliminated the middle layer, the organic, long-endurance, high-speed pouncer that could rapidly investigate contacts in that critical middle zone. It is precisely this gap that a modern submarine commander can exploit, launching long-range anti-ship cruise missiles from inside the P-8's patrol zone, but well outside the helicopter's reach. The peace that gutted the S-3 is over. The blue water submarine threat has returned with a vengeance. From Russia, the new Yasen-class SSN is a silent predator, reportedly armed with hypersonic Zircon missiles. It is a platform naval analysts fear is designed to threaten entire fleets. From China, the People's Liberation Army Navy has steadily grown in quality and quantity, fielding advanced Shang-class and Yuan-class submarines that pose a significant and growing challenge to U.S. naval operations in the Pacific. The S-3 Viking was retired in 2009, and the Hoover sound went silent. Today, with the rise of a new generation of apex predators, the U.S. carrier battle group finds itself in a chillingly familiar position. It is vulnerable. The Viking Gap has left the carrier blind in the very middle zone the S-3 was built to hunt. The sound that Soviet commanders once dreaded is gone, and the ocean is once again
more dangerous for it.